Um, Organizational climate, it describes how employees feel about their experiences at the workplace, and it relates to their overall mood about working for that particular organization. Now, again, why are we discussing about organizational climate? Because organizational climate affects the behavior and performance of employees in an organization, right? So, if an organization has an overall positive organizational climate, it results in happy employees, motivated employees, productive employees. Whereas if an organization has an overall negative climate, then you will see employees who are dissatisfied and with a low productivity, right? So why are we studying about organizational climate? Because organizational climate has an impact on employee behavior. So how employees feel about their company affects their behaviors. If they feel good about their experiences, there is greater possibility that they would remain in the company. They would stay back in the company. They have a positive attitude, and they perform well. Whereas negative um, Whereas negative feelings, they have an opposite effect, like employee morale, lower productivity, high turnover rates. These are all the outcomes of negative or negative organizational climate. Now, coming to what is the impact of organizational climate on the business, right? For any organization, what is the impact of organizational climate? The first aspect is employee retention. Okay, so when employees feel good about a workplace, they are more likely to stay with their company. They are more likely to continue working in that company. So higher employee retention is only possible when an organization has a positive climate, right? So higher employee retention, what are the benefits of it? It reduces employment costs and it keeps productivity higher, right? So that is the first one, employee retention. Coming to the second one, productivity and performance. See, satisfied employees are more likely to perform well, and which in turn would keep the productivity levels very high. Now, what this would allow is this would allow the organization to give the best possible service to the customers. And obviously, when you are giving the best possible service to the customer, your profits are high. Coming to the third one, reputation. So organizational climate can, go beyond your workforce. It is not just organizational climate is having an impact on the workforce. Its impact can be seen beyond that also. So a positive organizational climate, what it would do is employees will talk good about that company outside, right? So this what it will do, it will create a positive reputation about the company. It will encourage more and more people to apply for the company and also be a part of that organization. See, actually, what they say is like employees are brand ambassadors of the company, right? Employees are brand ambassadors of the company. They are the ones who talk good about the company and who spread the positive talk about the company. But when is that possible? When will they talk good about the company? When they themselves perceive that it is a good place to work, right? If they are not happy, then definitely they'll not go and talk good about the company. So that is about reputation. The next one is risk-taking behavior. See, employees might be more willing to take risks when they feel that they are supported by the organization and they have a positive impression or opinion about the organization. But why is risk taking important? You might get a doubt. Why should employees take risks? Risk taking behavior of the employees leads to innovative ideas, right? See, any organization can grow and develop only when it does things better than others and better than what it used to do earlier. That means only when it innovates, right? Innovation is very, very important for an organization. And innovation is only possible when employees are ready to do things differently, or in other words, when employees are willing to take risk, right? So risk-taking behavior, that is risk-taking behavior. Next one is behavior. See, the way employees perceive their workplace that will have a lot of impact on their behavior and decision making. For example, they might act in a certain way in order to earn rewards or in order to avoid punishments based on how the company operates. So, the way things happen in an organization, the way certain things are considered acceptable or not considered acceptable, that will have an impact on how employees behave. That is their behavior. The last one is goals. Organizational climate also has an impact on the goals. So, see, a business is more likely to achieve its goals when it has a positive organizational climate. Why? Because employees are more motivated, so therefore they'll be more productive, which makes achieving goals more easier. Right? The next topic is characteristics of organizational climate. The first thing that you need to understand about organizational climate is it is a general perception. Right? It is a general perception of all or most of the employees in an organization, right? Take for example, there are 100 employees in an organization. There are 4 or 5 employees who feel very good about the organization, and rest of them feel that it is not a good place to work. So we will not take into consideration these 4 or 5 people. What is the overall general perception of people that constitutes the organizational climate? So if most or majority of people are happy, feel good, then we say it has a positive organizational climate. If most or a majority of people feel unhappy, then we say it has a negative organizational climate, right? So organizational climate is a general perception of employees about their organization, right? It offers an understanding of the employee's perception of the organization's internal environment, how things happen in that particular organization. That is the first one. Next one, climate is an abstract and an intangible concept in the sense that it is a subjective concept. That means it could change from person to person and it could change from time to time also. For example, I might feel positive about the climate, but over a period of time, I might feel negative. So same person, it has changed, right? So that is why we call it as an abstract and an intangible concept. Therefore, organizational climate is also considered to be a very challenging concept to explain and something that cannot be measured. Okay. The next characteristic is organizational climate gives an organization a unique and distinctive identity. That means it separates one organization from the other organizations. Okay. And the next characteristic is organizational climate is more or less a permanent quality, a long-standing quality, in the sense that, organizational climate cannot be built overnight, right? So organizations have to spend some time, in order to shape their, desirable organizational climate, what kind of organizational climate they want. It cannot change overnight. It takes some time, right? And the next one is organizational climate is a multidimensional concept, right? That means there are a lot of management concepts like, individual autonomy, leadership style, communication, organizational conflicts, group work, teamwork. All these are various concepts that have to be, a part of creating the organizational climate, right? So these are some of the characteristics of organizational climate. Coming to the next one, dimensions of organizational climate. So what are the various dimensions of organizational climate? The first one is organizational structure. So structure forms the basis. What exactly is structure? Structure is a framework. Structure is a framework that defines the authority responsibility relationships in an organization. Okay. So structure forms the basis of interpersonal relations between the superiors and the subordinates, between those who are leading and those who are being led, right? So structure asks a number of questions like, who works under whom, who's responsible for whom, and all these things, right? So centralization of authority, that also has proven to reduce participation from subordinates in decision making. Whereas on the other hand, decentralization encourages it, right? So that is the first dimension of organizational climate. The next one is conflict. See, the organizational climate to a great extent depends on how effectively conflicts in an organization are managed. See, we already discussed about conflict. In organizations, conflict is inevitable. Wherever there are 2 or 3 people together, working together, conflicts will arise. But does conflict have a role in organizational climate? Yes. How conflicts are managed, that will have an impact on organizational climate. So when conflicts are effectively managed, what happens? They create an atmosphere of cooperation and facilitation, right? They create an atmosphere where there are mature, sensible conversations going on. Conversely, if conflicts are mismanaged, what happens? They create an atmosphere of distrust. They create an atmosphere of non-cooperation. They create an atmosphere of gossip amongst the employees. Right? The next one is risk taking. Right? So, see, if an employee has the freedom to explore new ideas without that, without the fear of failure or without the fear of any negative consequences. Now, what happens? They won't act. They won't hesitate to act quickly, or they won't hesitate to take calculated risks. This, what it would lead to? It would lead to an overall atmosphere of creativity and innovation. Whereas, if you see an organization which is risk averse, that means, organization doesn't support its employees in taking risks. So that is a risk averse organization. You would see a very, very cautious approach. People follow a very, very cautious approach. They don't come forward easily to take up new initiatives or new ideas and things like that. Now, what this approach does is it it has a very negative impact on employee growth. It minimizes innovation, right? So that's about risk taking. The next one is individual responsibility. So what exactly is the meaning of responsibility? Responsibility refers to the amount of autonomy, freedom, authority, and the power that employees have in the workplace. When you give enough autonomy, your employees will get to define their work and activities, right? So they themselves can define their work and activities. This will also reduce the workload of the managers. Managers are not overburdened in this manner. Whereas in a climate of low responsibility and autonomy, that means employees are given very low autonomy. What happens? Employees are become very passive over a period of time. They're forced to work to some pre-approved structure, some set of tasks that has been identified and designed by somebody else. This, if it continues for a longer period of time, it leads to frustration. See, because we are all looking at mature individuals working in the organization. For how long can they just work on instructions and orders given by somebody else without using their own creativity or knowledge? It cannot work for too long. Therefore, it leads to frustration. The next one is reward. So if the rewards are distributed fairly and without any partiality or any kind of bias, if they're distributed fairly based on performance and productivity, the employees will engage in healthy competition and they will want to work harder and harder because they know, see, everybody wants to be rewarded. So assume they were not rewarded this time also, but if they perceive that, the person who was rewarded because of his hard work, because of his merit, then everybody else would want to put in more effort from next time onwards. Whereas if there is any bias, any partiality, any favoritism, what would happen? It would spoil employee morale. It would damage their morale. And even though they are capable of, they would not want to contribute to the organization. The next one is warmth and support. Now, this dimension refers to the level at which employees help each other in the work, and also how they feel that they will get support from their colleagues and managers in difficult times. So, a strong level of fellowship between employees leads to confidence in sharing ideas and opinions without the fear of any kind of ridicule by anybody. Right? So these are the various dimensions of organizational climate. Right? Next, let us try to understand the difference between organizational culture and climate. In fact, we will discuss in detail about culture later because that is the second topic for today. But now let us try to understand what is the difference between organizational culture and climate. See, organizational climate and organizational culture are related concepts, but they are not the same. Okay, what is culture? Culture describes the values, norms, and the way things are done in an organization, right? What is climate? Climate is how your employees feel about the culture, whether they feel good about the culture or whether they feel bad about the culture, right? So if the culture of an organization values diversity, inclusion, curiosity, and teamwork, then all these positive attributes will lead to a positive organizational climate. So what we can say in short, we can say that organizational climate affects organizational culture affects organizational climate, right? But then culture isn't the only thing that affects climate. Um, there are a lot of other concepts also, right? So let us, there is a table given which will help us understand the differences much more clearly. See, culture is a more long-lasting concept and has a longer-term orientation, right? So culture focuses on foundational aspects, right? That form the core values and beliefs which define how things are done within the organization. Culture is intangible; it's an invisible code that shapes how employees interact, make decisions, and approach their work. Whereas organizational climate is a short-term indicator. Okay, it is focused on the current feelings, current mood, current perceptions that employees have about their workplace. Right? So culture plays a role in shaping the climate, but it also influenced by a lot of other factors like leadership style, the amount of workload that employees are given, relationships with fellow workers, and a lot of such things. The next one is looking at stability. See, culture is more stable. Culture is more enduring, right? Culture tends to materialize and evolve slowly over time. It is generally more resistant to change, but it is deeply ingrained nature, right? Whereas organizational climate is more changeable and fluid, right? That means it can fluctuate more readily based on current events, any leadership changes, or any new policies that are introduced. Next, coming to visibility. See, culture is less visible. Uh, it is more abstract, right? See, those companies that lack a distinctive code of behaviors, culture can be very can be less explicit, right? It basically what is it? It basically consists of unspoken norms and values. So it could be a huge challenge to directly observe and measure culture. Whereas climate is more visible, it is observable, right? Climate is more readily apparent through employee interactions, work environments, communication styles, and things like that. Next point is measurement. See, culture is very, very difficult to quantify. Assessing culture usually, it depends on observation, interpretation of behaviors, and things like that. Whereas climate can be measured. There are surveys, climate surveys, employee feedback sessions, exit interviews. So what they do is they provide data on employee feelings and perceptions about them. work environment. The next one is time frame. We discussed this already. Culture has it's a long-term phenomenon. It evolves slowly, right? Whereas climate is a short to medium-term phenomenon. It can change at a much faster pace than culture. Right? The next one is factors affecting organizational climate, right? See, there are a lot of ones. There are a lot of factors that go into creating the climate of an organization, and most of them are within the control of the organization. That means most of them are controllable factors, right? So why do we need to have an understanding of the factors that affect the organizational climate so that we can identify which are those factors which are having an impact on the climate? Are they having a positive impact, or are they having a negative impact? And those factors which have a positive impact, try to increase them, and those factors which have a negative impact, try to reduce them. So that is the reason why you need to know about excuse me. That is the reason why you need to know about factors affecting organizational climate. So the first one is leadership. See, an organization's management team that sets the tone for employees, and it can have a great impact on how employees feel about their organization. So collaborative leaders who coach their employees and support the autonomy or freedom that is given to the employees, they can have a very positive impact. The next one is colleagues. See, the interactions that employees have with their colleagues is very, very important. See, an employee spends around 8 to 10 hours of his day with his colleagues. So, what kind of interaction he is having with his or her colleagues is very, very important. So, if there is a workplace which is highly competitive, which has cutthroat environment, or is a toxic workplace, it can decrease the morale of the employees and make them have a negative opinion about the organization. The third one, physical environment. See, some organizations, especially multinational corporations, they spend lakhs and crores of rupees in designing good workplaces, comfortable workplaces, aesthetic workplaces. Why do they do that? Are they crazy to spend so much of money on just the physical environment? No. A clean, comfortable physical environment that can create a very positive impression on the employees. Whereas an outdated, dark, or uncomfortable environment can have a negative impact on the organization's climate. Next, coming to the safety, right? So the physical and psychological safety that employees perceive in a workplace, they can can have a great impact on how they perceive their workplace. So a physically secure workplace, it makes employees feel valued, and it can reduce their stress. Psychologically, see, employees need to know that they won't be discriminated against, that they would be taken care of, nobody would ridicule them, right? So all these things are important. So safety is not just physical safety, but psychological safety as well. For example, if you're working in a factory, then yes, physical safety is important. But if you're working in an IT company, physical safety is not of any great significance. But what is significant there? Psychological safety. The next one is communication. So how well an organization communicates with their employees, that has an impact on their perception, right? So strong, open communication, it keeps all the employees informed about what is happening in the organization, and it may make them feel more confident, right? It also helps them perform better because they have all the information that they need. right? So that is about factors affecting organizational climate. The next topic is how to measure organizational climate, right? How can organizational climate be measured? So the first method by which organizational climate can be measured is conducting employee surveys and feedback mechanisms, right? Surveys. See, surveys are one of the most efficient way of directly measuring employees' perceptions. So it's a direct measure of measuring employees' perception about the organization, which in turn will help us know what they feel about the organization climate. So employee surveys, they can be highly useful in predicting employee behavior and turnover, right? And surveys also help us in understanding the pulse of the organization and understanding the strengths, weaknesses, and areas for improvement. Right? The next one, administering interviews and focus groups. Now, the HR team in the organization, it can conduct individual interviews in order to understand employees better. It can ask, in those interviews, it can ask employees their views about leadership, the work environment, how, interpersonal relations are maintained in the organization. Such kind of things can be done. And that is that is for individuals. Simultaneously, focus groups, what they can do is they can bring together staff to discuss shared experiences regarding innovation, teamwork, adaptability, and things like that. So this combined approach, that is individual interviews and focus groups. This combined approach, what it could do is it could yield diverse insights. That is about the second one. The third one is observing and analyzing behavior. See, applied behavioral analysis is a specific form of behavior analysis that focuses on applying behavioral principles to individual, social, and cultural contexts. So, by observing employees' behavior, what organizations can gain? Organizations can gain insights into various aspects of their climate. For example, behavior. For example, the organization will get an understanding of learning and behavior in order, to help issues like teamwork, communication, and things like that. And the last one is benchmarking and conducting comparative analysis. So what is benchmarking? Benchmarking involves comparing an organization's climate against the industry standards. Or in other words, it is like benchmarking is providing a baseline for improvement. And comparative analysis, what it does is that it assesses an organization's climate in relation to other similar organizations. Thereby, what this process would do is this process would highlight the areas of strength and areas that need attention. Right? The next thing that we need to understand, the last point that we need to know in organizational climate is how to improve organizational climate. See, all companies have to continuously work on improving their climate. Even though an organization has a positive climate, even that organization also has to work on improving the climate because they have to make it better. And they have to make sure that this positive climate over a period of time does not become negative. Right? So improving the perception that employees have about their organization can increase satisfaction, can encourage their staff to act as brand ambassadors for the organization. There are a lot of benefits. But how? How can an organization improve its climate, right? So the first point is assessment. Assessment is you have to analyze where you are. What is the current situation? Is the climate positive, negative, neutral, highly positive, highly negative? What is the current situation? What is the present climate that you need to understand, right? And how can you do it? Just now we discussed in the previous slide. How do we know the present situation? You conduct an employee survey, you get direct feedback from your employees. So this will give you an idea. This will give you like a baseline so that you can compare changes in the climate. So that is the first one, analyzing where you are. Next one is seek regular feedback from employees. Organizations have to make it a point to continue to survey their employees in order to help them monitor the climate situation. What these regular surveys do is, regular surveys will help you identify any new trends, new issues, any seasonal factors if they are arising at a very initial stage, right? The next one is focusing on the company's mission, vision, and values, right? So the company's mission, vision, and values, they can help unite your employees and it can improve the climate, right? So an organization has to constantly talk about their mission, vision, and values to the employees. No, see, an organization cannot expect that each and every employee would know what its mission, vision, and value is, would embrace it wholeheartedly. No, in a lot of publicizing should happen, right? So that is the third one, uniting around mission, vision, and values. The next one is emphasizing on DEI. What is DEI? Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Okay. So diversity, equity, and inclusion, they have a very strong effect on how employees feel about the organization, right? So promoting an inclusive environment that celebrates and accepts diversity can make all employees feel that, like they all belong to that place. It creates a very positive environment where all the staff members work together and respect their differences and similarities. What it does is it creates very strong bonds among the employees. And the next one is training the leadership team. See, since the management team has a very strong impact on organizational climate, it is very important that they are properly trained, right? That there is proper evaluation done of their styles and expectations, right? So that is one thing that needs to be taken care of, right? The next one is encouraging open communication. So, see, open two-way communication, what it can do is it can make employees feel like they are a very important, valued part of the organization. What it does is, that kind of transparency, what it does is, it clears up confusion and it prevents any kinds of rumors or informal communication from starting, right? So, or in other words, what we can say is, open two-way communication, it prevents negativity, right? So organizations have to listen to their employees. They have to identify strategies from the employees. They have to ask employees and take it from them. The next one is increasing employee autonomy and trust. See, employees tend to perform better when they know that their employer trusts them, when their employer has that confidence on them, and when the employer gives them autonomy. Autonomy is nothing but freedom. Autonomy to do their jobs effectively. So giving them decision-making power, reasonable decision-making power, maybe 100% complete decision-making power might not be possible, but reasonable decision-making power, empowering them, encouraging them to take risks, that would have a lot of impact on the organization, right? The next one is evaluating employee motivation sources. So what is motivating your employees? What is increasing their motivation levels? What is decreasing their motivation levels? If an organization has a clear-cut understanding about all these things, then it can definitely improve the climate. Okay? So this is about evaluating employee motivation sources. So we have completed our discussion on organizational climate. Now we move to the concept of organization culture. So what exactly is culture? Culture is a set of values, beliefs, attitudes, systems, rules, norms that employees in an organization share amongst themselves, right? So culture reflects how employees experience the organization and its brand, right? Culture also outlines and influences employee behavior within the organization, right? So organizational culture, it has an impact on all aspects of the business. Like, from like punctuality to the terms in the contract agreement, what employee benefits are being given. All these things are affected by organizational culture, right? So these are some of the qualities of a great organizational culture. The first one is alignment to company objectives. That means um, a good organizational culture, what it does is it is in tune with the company objectives. It is in tune with the organizational objectives, right? The next one is there is a culture of appreciation. That is, people are appreciated, people are recognized and noticed for their contribution. They are rewarded either monetarily or non-monetarily. They are rewarded for uh, whatever efforts that they put in. That is a culture of appreciation. The next one is a culture of trust, where employers trust their employees, where managers trust their subordinates. So where people trust one another, that is a quality of a great organizational culture. So where trust, wherever you see trust, instances of employees cheating, instances of employees trying to, avoid work and things like that would be very less. Next one is organization should be performance focused. That means what is most important in this organization? Only performance, nothing else. No favoritism, no partiality, no this person related to the boss, that person related to the boss, nothing of that kind. Whoever performs, that person is rewarded. That is known as a performance focused culture. Resilience means, strength, not giving up so easily. See, organizations during their course, during their tenure in the during their tenure, might face many ups and downs. No organization will always face successes. They might face defeats at times, but in such difficult times also, how do they hold together? How do they still stand strong? That is what is resilience. The next one is another quality of a great organizational culture is it encompasses teamwork. Organizations where teams are given importance, such kind of organizations are really productive and profitable organizations. See, today's organizations are not run by individuals, they're run by teams. However, capable, talented, smart or intelligent an individual could be, he cannot replace a team. He cannot do so much of work. It is only teams who can accomplish goals of the organizations, not individuals. Then another quality of a great organizational culture is integrity and transparency. So where honesty, genuineness are rewarded, where morals and ethics are given utmost importance, right? Such kind of organizations are said to have a great culture. And when there is open, transparent, two-way communication between people, such kind of organizations are said to have a great culture. The last one is where employees feel psychologically safe, where an organization which provides psychological safety to its employees. So what is psychologically safety? Where people feel that they're not they're not exploited against, they're not discriminated against, they're well taken care of. All such are qualities of a great culture. Okay? The next topic is levels of cultural analysis. So usually organization culture is looked at from three levels. Level 1 is the artifacts, level 2 is the values, level 3 is the shared or tacit assumptions. So what are artifacts? The visible manifestations of culture, those that you can see, like, the decor of an organization, the ambience, the dress code that is followed in the organization. All these are the artifacts, right? And also see the rites and rituals that are followed. For example, oath taking ceremony that is followed, or graduation ceremony where students are handed over certificates. These are all all like rituals, right? So these are also all a part of Level 1, the artifacts. The artifacts are nothing but the visible aspects of culture. The second one are shared values. See, values are of two types, terminal values and instrumental values. Terminal values are the final values. That is what you want to achieve. Instrumental values are those values which are used to achieve terminal values. For example, terminal value could be stability, financial stability. So if one terminal value could be, okay, financial stability. But how can you achieve the financial stability? By being a hardworking person. So being hardworking is instrumental value. Financial stability is terminal value. So nobody wants to say, I want to be a hardworking person. They would say, I want to be a financially independent person. But how can you be a financially independent person? By being a hardworking person. So those are values, right? So how an organization explains its culture, for example, the official policies, all those things are a part of the shared or the espoused values. Right? The last one are assumptions. So shared tacit assumptions. So over a period of time, like some organizations think that coming to organizational time is very, very important. Whereas in some organizations, they might feel it's okay by coming late by 5 minutes or 10 minutes would not do any great harm. It is ultimately the end of the day how well I do my work. That is what is more important, right? Those are the three different levels. Next, coming to functions of organizational culture. What is it that organizational culture does? What is the positive impact that it does? Right? So, an organizational culture gives its members an organizational identity. See, when you are sharing norms, values, and perceptions, what it does is it gives people a sense of togetherness. It gives them a sense of togetherness that helps promote a feeling of common purpose. So this also enables employees on how to think, how to behave, and things like that. The next one is it facilitates collective commitment. So the common purpose that grows out of shared culture, what it does is it elicits strong commitment from all employees who accept the culture as their own. Next one is it promotes system stability. So by encouraging a shared sense of identity and commitment, what culture does is it encourages lasting integration and cooperation among the members of the organization. It also enhances social stability by holding the organizational members together and by providing them appropriate standards. The fourth one is it shapes behavior by helping members make sense of their surroundings, making them understand their surroundings. So it serves as a source of shared meaning that explains why things happen the way they do. Right? So therefore, they say organizational culture is not seen, but it is felt. Right? It reflects the values that are shared by the members of the organization. Another function of organizational culture is it creates a boundary. It provides a boundary for every organization. In other words, it creates a distinction between this organization and the other organization. So what does such kind of boundary do? Such kind of boundary, it helps identify members and non-members of the organization. Right? Next one is culture facilitates the generation of commitment to something larger than one's individual self-interest. So it acts as a self-control. It acts as a control mechanism that guides and shapes the attitude and behavior of employees. And finally, it helps employees to stick to conformity. It helps employees to stick to that expected mode of behavior. Culture ensures that everyone thinks and behaves in a prescribed manner. So these are functions of culture. These are some of the benefits or goods that culture does to the organization. But does also culture lead to some kind of negative outcomes? Yes. So that is what we would discuss under dysfunctions of culture. So culture at times acts as a barrier to change. Right? It acts as a barrier to change. this is more so relevant when sometimes the environment becomes very, very dynamic. In such situations, consistent behavior becomes a problem. As because what happens, employees try to resist the change in that particular environment. So companies which have strong cultures, which succeeded really well in the past, might have to change difficulties when there is a change in the external environment. So strong cultures at times can become an obstacle. Okay? Next one is culture. The next dysfunction of culture is a barrier to diversity. Okay. See, what strong cultures do is they put a lot of pressure on employees to conform to the group values, the group norms. So if the employees are belonging to different countries, different race, or different religions, even they have to conform to this particular organization's cultures and values. If they don't do so, they are believed to be unfit for the company. So what is wrong with strong cultures is they do not accept diversity, individuality. So this could prove to be an obstacle in diversity management. The next one is cultures. At times, strong cultures especially, at times can be barriers to mergers and acquisitions, right? Usually, when mergers and acquisitions are talked about, the focus is more on financial matters, on product synergy alone. But no, the focus should also be on employee compatibility, cultural compatibility, right? So if two companies which have strong cultures are merging together, then that could create a lot of problems of acceptability. Right? So these are some of the dysfunctions of culture. Right? The next topic is characteristics of organizational culture. Right? So what are organizational cultures are nothing but they are the shared values. They are the basic assumptions and operational norms that that an organization uses in order to guide its members. So what is the primary objective of these values? The primary objective of these values is to unite individuals by regulating their actions to direct and support their operations. And this, in the long run, would enable employees to trust one another. Right? The next one are norms and expectations. So what are norms and expectations? Norms and expectations are the unwritten guidelines that help employees understand how they need to behave and interact with other employees. So some of the common norms are communication styles, ethics, how people collaborate and work together. These are some of the common norms. So they're very essential in order to create unity and consistency in an organization. The next one is leadership style. Right? It is the way in which managers interact with the team members and the manner in which decisions are made. So in yesterday's class, you would have learned that leadership styles are different. Autocratic style, democratic style, there are a lot of different leadership styles. Right? So the leadership style that is adopted in an organization has an impact on its culture. Right? The next one is work environment. So work environment, what does it refer to? It refers to the physical, social, and psychological atmosphere in which employees carry out their tasks. Therefore, it includes the layout and design of the office and the facilities provided for the staff. Right? So that is about work environment. The next one is rituals and traditions. So what are rituals and traditions? These are recurring symbolic practices, which could either be formal or informal. When a person retires on the last day, some function is organized, or when new employees are joined in an organization, they are given a tea party or snack party or something like this. So these are practices. Through these practices, what the company does is the company articulates and stabilizes its value and identity, right? So they improve connection and share an affiliation between the employees. Now, traditions also allow determining continuity, right? So these are the characteristics of organizational culture. Next, let us try to understand. One second. Yeah. Next topic that we need to discuss is dimensions of organizational culture. Right? What do you mean by dimensions? The first type of culture that we would be discussing about is dominant culture and subcultures. So what is a dominant culture? A dominant culture is a set of core values that are shared by a majority of the organization's members. So when we talk about organization culture, we usually mean dominant culture only. We refer to the dominant culture. The dominant culture, it has a macro view. It helps guide the day-to-day behavior of all the employees. What is subculture? A subculture is a set of values shared by a very small minority of the organization members. Now, why do these subcultures arise? Subcultures arise because as a result of the problems or experiences that few members in the organization or few members in a particular department or unit experience. Are subcultures completely different? No. In the subculture also, the core values of the dominant culture are retained, but they are modified in order to reflect the individual unit's distinct situation. Correct? The next one is strong and weak culture. So when do we say that an organization has a strong culture? An organization is said to have a strong culture when it has a strong leadership, when it has a strong value system in place, right? And when this culture is widely shared, that means all the employees have the same core values. And a strong culture is very intensely, strongly held. That means the commitment of the members to the core values is very, very strong. What a strong culture would do is a strong culture will have great influence on the behavior of its members because there is a high degree of sharedness and intensity, which creates a very internal climate of high behavioral control. Right? So, what are the benefits of strong culture? Strong culture helps in reducing turnover and helps in creating a positive employee attitude. And what a strong culture also does is it demonstrates high agreement among the members about what the organization stands for. So, cohesiveness, loyalty, organizational commitment, these are all the direct consequences of a strong culture. And similarly, employee turnover would be very, very low, right? But there is one disadvantage or one limitation that we can call of strong cultures, and that is it will all lead to groupthink. That means, people not thinking differently, everybody following one dominant view. That is one problem. Next one is mechanistic and organic cultures. So what is a mechanistic type of culture? An organization where values of bureaucracy and feudalism are seen. Such type of cultures are known as mechanistic culture. So people restrict their careers to their own specializations, and the organizational work is looked at as a very narrow system of specialization. So that is what you see in mechanistic culture. So it comprises a very traditional form of organization where authority flows from the top level of the organization to the lower levels. And communication channels also, in mechanistic cultures are very well defined and prescribed. But the problem with mechanistic culture is people are extremely loyal to their departments, but you would also see a lot of interdepartmental rivalry and animosity. Right? That is the main limitation. Organic culture, in other way, is a very contrast of mechanistic culture. So, there are no prescribed communication channels, departmental boundaries, hierarchies of authority. All these things are not there. So, in this form of culture, there is more more emphasis on flexibility, consultation, change, innovation, creativity. There is a lot of emphasis on that, right? And communication flow is also more transparent, more open. Right? The next one is authoritarian and participative cultures. What happens in authoritarian culture? Power is centralized in one person, that is the leader. And all the subordinates are expected to follow the instructions given by the leader very, very strictly. Right? In such cultures, discipline is stressed greatly, and any person who is not adhering or disobedience of the orders is very, very severely punished. Right? So this culture is based on the assumption that the leader knows what is good for the organization, and he or she would always act in the interest of the organization. So this type of culture, what it does is it discourages professionalization, because professionals, they consider themselves as equal. They don't think that there is one person who is supreme, who knows everything and everybody has to follow. No, that does not happen. So that is one limitation of an authoritarian culture. Coming to participative culture is based on the assumption that, all the people working in an organization have a right to participate in the decision making, because they are equally committed to the organization, right? And the underlying assumption here is, if you allow people to participate in the decision making, they would be more committed to those decisions. They would own up those decisions. They would, be ready to face the consequences of their decisions, rather than when decisions taken by somebody else are just, thrown at them. Right? The last one is national versus organizational culture. Right? So organizational culture is always influenced by the culture of the land, of the place where it is, the geographical area, irrespective of the origin of the company. Or in other words, see, if there is a clash between the organizational culture and the national culture, it is usually the organizational culture that prevails. See, for example, any company that is operating in India, what do? Whether they could be an Indian company or a foreign company, they observe the local culture. So if there is an American company which is operating in India, they don't declare July 4th as Independence Day holiday. They declare 15th August as Independence Day holiday. So they are following the national culture. Right? So that is about different dimensions of culture. The next one is impact of culture on organizations. So the first one is increased employee engagement. So every worker wants to work in a place which has a positive work environment, where their opinions are valued, their hard work is appreciated and acknowledged. So a culture that is driven by clear goals that motivates and inspires the employees to take ownership and be more productive. So that is how you would see increased employee engagement. The next one is decreased attrition. See, if people feel valued, if people are acknowledged for their effort, why would they want to leave the organization? There is very less probability of them to leave the organization in such kind of a scenario. So therefore, it is mandatory, it is imperative that companies should foster a good, successful organizational culture which is supporting their core values. Right? So see, happy employees means lower attrition rate, higher productivity. So it is beneficial to the organization in many ways. Right? The next one is improved productivity. See, it goes without saying that if employees feel engaged and appreciated, their performance will get a massive boost. So therefore, organizational culture, it influences people and it brings creative, innovative minds together, right? People with different backgrounds, skills can work together harmoniously, right? And all this is possible only when there is a positive work culture. The next one is transformational power. See, not all companies have the power to turn ordinary employees into, like strong and vocal brand ambassadors. But those with strong organizational cultures can do, right? Companies that recognize and reward their employees' hard work are more likely to encourage a positive cultural transformation. And the last one is effective onboarding, right? See, whenever people want to apply for jobs, they check in the job portals and they see what kind of reviews employees are writing about their organization. So, whether employees are writing good or bad about the organization, a lot of it depends on the organization culture, right? So, good reviews, they provide a massive boost to the brand image. And companies which have effective onboarding processes, they help new employees access the right resources and better adapt to the roles. Okay? So that is the impact of culture on organizations. The next one is developing organizational cultures. Right? How can uh, how can an organization create a great organizational culture? It doesn't happen overnight. It requires developing and executing a plan with a lot of clear objectives that the organization has to work towards, that the organization has to quantify, right? So, you on the PPT you can see that there are 8 steps that can be used as a roadmap for building that good organizational culture. The first one is excelling in recognition. So, recognizing the contribution of all the team members, that has a very far reaching and positive effect on organizational culture. It is a well known fact that when an organization appreciates employees, when it makes appreciating employees a part of its culture, all the important metrics like employee engagement, employee retention, productivity, profitability, everything improves automatically, right? And when I say making recognition, employee recognition a part of the culture, it means it should be done regularly, frequently. It should not be, like once in a while affair, only once in a year or for some important annual day or some shareholders meeting, some such events only the manager is talking about how well the employees are doing. No, it should be done whenever and wherever required. See, in fact, they say when you have to praise your employees, you don't have to think twice. Do it as much as you want to. Even if you overdo a little bit, also there is nothing wrong. There's no harm in that. But only if you, when it comes to criticizing your employees, then you have to pay a little attention. There are a lot of rules relating to that also, that you have to criticize them in private and things like that. Right? Next one is enable employee voice. That is allowing your employees to speak, taking their opinions, taking their point of views. Right? That is what is meant by enabling employee voice. And the third one is your leaders, the organizational leaders should become culture advocates, right? So, see, building a strong workplace culture that is in the hands of team leaders and managers. So, if your workplace culture prioritizes certain values and the leadership doesn't exemplify them, or the leadership doesn't display those behavior, then it undermines the whole effort. So team members will automatically understand that there is a difference between the stated values and what behaviors are actually being displayed. So they may even start to, um, um, retain such kind of negative behaviors, believing that these negative behaviors would be rewarded by the management. And the next one is focus on learning and development. See, an organization, all great workplace cultures are formed by employees who are continuously learning, who are continuously, developing themselves. So, training initiatives, coachings, providing employees with new responsibilities. All these are different ways in which you show your team that you want them to succeed and that that you want to play an important role in their success. Right? Keeping culture in mind from day one. See, when an employee's perspective doesn't match your company's culture, it would result in internal discord. So, organizations should hire for culture and reinforce it during the onboarding process and beyond. Otherwise, it becomes difficult over a period of time if a person realizes that he is very different culturally from everybody else in the organization. It becomes difficult for him to continue working in the organization. Therefore, organization has to keep in mind right from the recruitment stage itself. Right? So that is what is meant. Those are the points that we need to discuss in developing organizational cultures. Right? The next one is how can you sustain organizational culture? Right? How can organizational culture be sustained? I told you just now. Right from recruitment stage, and organizations have to think about the culture selection. See, you have to select such people who are okay. They have to be the right people for the right job. Also, you also have to look into whether their value system matches the value system of the organization or not. If that does not happen, then it becomes very important for an employee to, the employee has to change, has to adapt himself or herself, which might be easy for some, which might be difficult for others. So if the employee is finding it very difficult to adapt, then he would not continue in the organization over a period of time. He would find himself a misfit, and either he would leave the organization by himself or he might not contribute, and therefore the organization might have to terminate his service. The next one is top management. So the actions of the top management, they have a major impact on the culture of the organization. So it is the responsibility of the top management to outline the organizational mission, what is achievable, and what are the duties of the managers. All these things have to be clearly laid down. Next is socialization. See, all the employees should be properly inducted in the organization. There should be a proper procedure for this. So in all individual employees, they should be told about what is the organization structure, which department do they belong to, and who is the immediate superior to whom he is to report. All such kind of things have to be told. Right? So this is how organizational culture can be sustained. The last topic in culture is, can organizational culture be changed? Right? Is it possible to change organizational culture? It is not that easy because organizational culture is very deep rooted. Organizational culture takes a lot of time to form. So therefore, it is a long-drawn process. Changing the culture of a place, it is not impossible, but it is a long-drawn process. So the first thing that needs to be done is to identify the desired outcomes. Right? So workplace culture is a reflection of the values and behavior of the employees. What a clear vision does is it communicates to the employees what the organization wants from them and how they have to behave. Right? That is the first one, identifying desired outcomes. The second one is planning the culture change rollout. So employees must identify with and relate to the change. So, before bringing out that cultural framework, there has to be a lot of communication and interaction with the employees. transparent communication and interaction with the employees. This would create a culture of open feedback. The next one is incorporating cultural values into hiring initiatives. So one sure way to make culture change a reality is to make it a part of the hiring process, the rewarding process, the promotion process. So for recruitment and onboarding process, your culture will be reflected in the way you evaluate candidates as well as recruiting experience that you provide them. And the next one is patience. See, like I told you, it is a time-taking process. Sometimes it takes indefinite amount of time also. So if organizations want to change culture, they should have the patience to wait. And the last one is defining the message, telling the people what over and over again, repeatedly, what is acceptable, what is not acceptable. This over a period of time would bring about a gradual change in the perception of employees, which might result in a change in the culture of the place. Right? So this is about organizational culture. The last topic for today that we want to discuss is organizational effectiveness. So what exactly is organizational effectiveness? Organizational effectiveness means how successfully an organization meets its goals. So what are goals? Goals are like, different organizations could have different goals, like producing these many quantity of units, maintaining this quality level, maintaining this kind of communication process in the organization. These could be different goals. So how successfully an organization meets these goals, that is very, very important. And why is organizational effectiveness important is because an organization becomes competitive by becoming more effective and by achieving its goals. And organizational effectiveness also, what it does is it ensures long-term success by keeping both the management and the employees focused on achieving their goals. Right? Okay. See, many a times people confuse between efficiency and effectiveness. Right? So this slide will help you understand what are the differences between efficiency and effectiveness. So what is efficiency? Efficiency focuses on minimizing resource waste and achieving the task with the least amount of inputs, right? So achieving something but using the minimum resources, minimum inputs. That is what is efficient. Whereas effectiveness only concentrates on achieving the goals, achieving the outcomes. There is no emphasis on the resources used as far as effectiveness is concerned. In efficiency, one second. Efficiency prioritizes in getting things done quickly and at a lower cost. Whereas effectiveness, it prioritizes about meaningful results and how strategic objectives are achieved. Right? Again, see the same thing. Efficiency emphasizes on optimizing and streamlining of resources in order to minimize expenses. Whereas effectiveness, what does it do? It prioritizes the strategic allocation of resources in order to achieve optimal results, even though it might at times involve slightly higher costs. Right? So efficiency streamlines processes for productivity, whereas effectiveness, what it does is it designs processes and systems in order to align with organizational goals. In efficiency, there is no focus on organizational goals. The only focus there is how to minimize the usage of resources. That's it. And in efficiency, the focus is on the quantity of output and tasks completed, whereas in effectiveness, the focus is on the quality, the impact of the output, right? All that is effectiveness. Right? The next topic that we need to understand is, see, there are a few models of organizational effectiveness. Let us try to understand these models. The first model is a balanced scorecard. So what is a balanced scorecard? A balanced scorecard is a comprehensive performance management framework. What it does is it evaluates an organization's overall effectiveness. And there are four key perspectives in a balanced scorecard. Those four key perspectives are financial, customer, internal process, and the last one, the final one, learning and growth. So if you look at these four processes, what you would understand is that both financial as well as non-financial parameters are included in this. So what a balanced scorecard is doing is a balanced scorecard is giving you a holistic perspective of the organizational performance instead of only focusing on profit. See, an organization could be making a lot of profits, but it could be cheating its customers. It could be, its employees could be very dissatisfied. So, can we call that as an effective organization? No, we cannot. The next model is the Organizational Performance Index. Now, this Organizational Performance Index is a model that is designed to quantify an organization's performance by using various key performance indicators, right? So that is how you look at this, the Organizational Performance Index. Now, what this process involves is this involves defining the very critical success factors and measuring them through selected metrics. So this model, it follows a weighted approach. That means you're assigning weights to various parameters. So what this weighted approach does is it enables organizations to calculate an overall index, offering a numerical representation. Right? So that is the Organizational Performance Index. The next model is known as the EFQM model. EFQM model. What does EFQM stand for? EFQM stands for European Foundation for Quality Management. Right? European Foundation for Quality Management. Now, this is a widely adopted framework for assessing organizational excellence, right? So, like in balanced scorecard, you saw four perspectives. EFQM model focuses on 9 perspectives or 9 criteria. Leadership, what are those 9? Leadership, strategy, people, partnerships, processes, customer results, people results, societal results, and key performance results. So an organization's effectiveness is measured from these 9 different perspectives. The last one is, not the last one, fourth one is McKinsey's 7S framework, right? So this framework was created by the consulting company McKinsey. This 7S framework, what it does is, it focuses on 7 internal elements that are crucial for an organization's success. And those 7 different elements are strategy, structure, systems, skills, style, staff, and shared values. Right? So this model is important for understanding the interdependencies between the various organizational elements. Right? So this framework, what it does is it helps organizations in effectively addressing the various internal factors in order to enhance their overall organizational effectiveness. Right? The last one is the ISO 9001 Quality Management System. This ISO 9001, it serves as a model for organizational effectiveness. Its primary focus is on process-based approach, customer focus, leadership engagement, and continuous improvement. So what these standards often do is they help organizations improve in efficiency, customer satisfaction, and things like that. Right? So this is the 5th model. Then looking at the last topic for today is the factors affecting organizational effectiveness. So when we talk about factors affecting organizational effectiveness, we can classify these factors into 3 different categories: causal variables, intervening variables, and end result variables. One second. Yeah. Causal variables. So what are causal variables? Causal variables are those independent variables that determine the course of development within the organization and the objectives achieved by an organization. So these causal variables, include only those independent variables which can be altered by the organization and its management. So things like management policies, decisions, business and leadership strategies, employee skills, employee behavior, all these fall under the causal variables category. Coming to intervening variables, these variables reflect the internal state and health of the organization. So, for example, employee loyalty, employee attitudes, employee motivational levels, perceptions of employees, communication, decision making style, all these fall under the category of intervening variables. And lastly, the final one is the end result variables. So see, causal variables were independent variables. End result variables are dependent variables. So what do? They reflect achievements of an organization, like what? Like productivity, cost, loss, earnings, all the profitability or loss, earnings, all these things, right? So these are some of the factors affecting organizational effectiveness. With this, I will stop here. With this, we have completed the 3 topics: organizational, climate, culture, and effectiveness. So I will leave. Good day to all of you. Thank you.